Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. He look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
This is some back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, welcome into a Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by our friends over at RMB Builders. Get in touch with Rhett and the crew over at rmb-builders.com and hit them on Instagram at RMB Builders. Remember, you can hit them there every single day, and you can find them on Instagram. Our phone line is brought to you by our friends over at Southern Regional Medical Center, formerly Metropolitan Health Group, but still the same great services, same great people. Charlie Harvey, Jason Ramazan, and the crew over at Southern Regional Medical Center. No guests today. Wide open reacting to the weekend of news where LSU baseball dominated the Major League Baseball draft yesterday. Not very much unexpected. This has been a story that's really been circulating and moving since the beginning of the season. Once Paul Skenes stepped onto the scene and people saw up close how dominant he was, he moved himself into the discussion as a potential top overall selection. Dylan Cruz was already there. Once he showed up in Baton Rouge, I think his first home run that he hit off of Paul Skenes from Air Force, Alex Bregman tweeted out 1-1 in 3 years. So, I mean, the story has been widely known on Dylan Cruz that he was going to be a top selection. But to see LSU dominate both the number 1 and number 2 pick like they did last night for the first time in any school history. LSU makes history last night a couple of times, including what we tell you there, the first school to have the top 2 picks in the Major League Baseball draft. And then last night, the SEC Network put out a flex for LSU that right now, if you're in the athletic department, you are walking around with your chest out, you are sending emails out, you're making calls, you're recruiting anybody that you were thinking about on the fence of hiring that you may have a sales pitch to make to. Today is the day that you're picking up the phone and making those calls if you're working with inside the LSU athletic department, because LSU became the only school in the history of drafts to have number 1 picks in all 4 major drafts. They've got the number 1 pick in the NFL, obviously with Jamarcus Russell and Joe Burrow. Billy Cannon was the number 1 pick back in 1960. NBA, obviously, Shaquille O'Neal and Ben Simmons went 1-1 in their respective draft classes. The WNBA, Simone Augustus, went top overall. And then Major League's baseball draft, where Ben McDonald had held that moniker for so long and that accolade for so long. What was it, 1989, when Big Ben came out and went number 1 overall to the Baltimore Orioles. All the way up here until 2023, where Paul Skenes goes 1 overall again. And look, for Skenes and Cruz, an incredible accomplishment. Like we said with Cruz, you kind of knew it when he showed up, right? I remember Nolan Cain talking about Dylan Cruz when he landed him in recruiting, about just how much of a unicorn that this guy was. Not only the skill set, the player, but the fact that he was coming to college. I mean, it was almost a perfect storm of COVID, the shaved down MLB draft, and Dylan Cruz wanting to experience college baseball. And, you know, a lot like Bregman when he was coming out of New Mexico during his time, when he told, you know, the clubs, the franchises, if you don't take me in the first round, do not draft me, because I'm not coming to the show if you don't take me in the first round. And Bregman, a man of his word, was not taken in the first round. I believe he was taken in the second. They tested him. He says no, bucks it, goes back to, or doesn't go back, decides to go to LSU and takes that second-round pick or that, not first-round selection and makes it the number 2 overall pick 3 years later. Dylan Cruz, 3 years ago, right? I mean, would have been a high draft pick. But to come to school and to improve the stock to number 2 overall, what a success story for not only LSU baseball, but college baseball, and, of course, Cruz, who leaves LSU with a reputation and one that's only going to grow the further he gets away from his time as quite possibly the best player ever to wear the uniform. At least his trophy shelf says it is. And then for Paul Skenes to show up. And again, I think this is a great sales pitch for LSU, right? When Skenes showed up from Air Force, did anybody expect him to be the first overall pick? I think people did expect him to be a horse, right? You knew he was going to be a dog. You knew he was either going to be the fifth or sixth batter in the lineup, or he was going to be the ace of the staff. He turned out to be the ace of the staff and the best pitcher maybe in the program history, at least for one season. From a career standpoint, it's tough to argue what Ben McDonald did. And even in Ben's junior year, how dominant it was. Skenes matched him and actually, overtook his strikeout record. And Skip nearly threw Ben into the ground. But for Skenes to show up, take all of this LSU baseball, fluff. I mean, the stuff that you get when you sign up. I mean, I remember the stories of hearing, kind of secondhand of Skenes going into the pitching room for the first time with LSU and seeing all the technology and seeing everything that he had access to, right? You put a guy like that who, has his skill set, his motivation, his drive with coaching like Wes Johnson, Jay Johnson, and the technology of LSU baseball, you produce the number 1 pick. It's the same thing that Jay Johnson's selling right now. I mean, he's saying last summer, do you think Skenes knew he was going to go 1 overall? I'll tell you, he didn't. But he worked himself into it because he had access to all of this just, baseball heaven. So for Skenes, Cruz, and then last night, Ty Floyd ends up going 38th overall to the Cincinnati Reds. So Floyd's selection was the first time LSU had 3 players drafted prior to the second round in school history. So I'm telling you, a lot of for as rich as LSU's baseball history is and the tradition, as rich as it is, this team made some incredible historical moves as far as the program and individually concerned. Shout out to all those guys, man. What a joy to watch this team play, to continue to celebrate this team as everything that they accomplished is continued to be celebrated, and it should be, man. I mean, this team, the further we get away from it, I really believe this is going to have a 2019 national championship football feel where it's the best. I mean, there's nothing else that you could do with it. They beat everybody. They had every player. I mean, from this LSU baseball standpoint, look at them. I mean, they got the 38th pick in the draft. You'll be watching these guys play for a decade on big-time contenders, just like we're watching Burrow and Chase and Jefferson and Queen and
Clyde.
I mean, all these cats. I mean, it's epic. If you're an LSU fan right now, I was telling little Jay this, when we were watching the baseball national championship together. What a time to be alive, my man. I mean, really. Look around. It doesn't get any better than this. I told him, I said, man, when Dad was coming up, we were 20 years old in 2000 when Nick Saban took the job. I don't think anybody knew that the next 20 years was going to be a golden age type run for football. I mean, think about it. If you're my age, we were in college when Saban got the job in 2000. 3 years later, you're national champs. 20 years later, you've played for it 4 times. And you got a Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, the golden age of football. If you're an LSU fan right now, you're looking around and you're about to go and enter what feels like the golden age of the athletic department. Really, I mean, last night I read where LSU, with the baseball national championship, has the most national championships in the SEC. I would have never guessed that, first off. And this is a collection of all the titles, right? Track and field's dominance, baseball's dominance, football throwing their 3 into the pile. Golf has a national, I mean, like there's every single national championship on campus in one pile. LSU's got 51 of them. Next in line is Arkansas at 50.
Which I would not have picked second.
Never. And it feels like LSU's about to run away with this thing. I mean, really. Jay Johnson sat right there last week. He said it on the way out. We're just getting started. Like he had to force that comment into the interview. Like on the way out, he was like, "Oh no, we're just getting started. Like we feel it."
That's everybody.
Kim Mulkey.
Just getting started.
Kim Mulkey's playing. She's playing with house money. I mean, really. I think everybody was looking at Kim Mulkey's 3rd year. Nobody was looking at her 2nd year, and she's already got a natty. And Brian Kelly's telling you he's a year away, which is a great salesmanship.
Only cook left in the kitchen.
I mean,
to put this fire out.
It is a great time to be alive if you are an LSU football fan. If you hate LSU, you have got to be a miserable human being. Because there's no sign for let up. I mean, really. I think the story will be for Mulkey's crew this season if they do get beat. Mm-hmm. Like, that will be the story. I mean, I hate to put that, like she would slap me in the face for saying that, but I mean, it's true. I mean, like you bring down all this talent, you bring down all this attention, you bring down all this NIL and all this, winning, and people are quickly going to hate you quick. I mean, you'll turn into the Patriots, Alabama football, Kentucky basketball, LSU baseball. But we've got a request into Scott Woodward, and I believe he's going to be here either later this week or early next week. And, it's... I can't wait to, dig into what his point of view of what he's witnessing. Right? I mean, like, you got to think about it, man. Woodward's a Baton Rouge guy. I mean, like, you imagine, like, pulling these strings as a Baton Rouge kid for LSU?
Santa Claus.
Hey, it's literally everything he's touching is turning into championships.
Do you think that in his wildest of thoughts that it would go this well this early? Like, in pie in the sky, big idea, like, I'm going to get Jay Johnson. Nobody knew who that was whenever he came in. Obviously, Kim Mulkey was pie in the sky too, and then Brian Kelly. Like, for him to be able to pull those 3 off and for Jay Johnson to turn out the way that it did, that's a home run. Kim Mulkey to win in year 2, that's obvious. So, like, just to even get her on campus is the win. Because you know what she's going to do. And then Brian Kelly, for him to win an SEC West championship in his first year.
He makes moves, and this is just my point of view of him and knowing him just a little bit and having a relationship with him. He makes moves with so much confidence. If you go back and watch the interview we had with him last year, I think our point of view, or at least my approach to him, was kind of like the wow factor. Like, you got Mulkey, and he was like, well, yeah. I mean, people should expect that. I mean, I think the one thing that he has done that nobody else could do other than Saban and Emmert was secure the money. Like, I mean, if you go back to Saban and Richard Gill were best friends. Richard Gill was the CEO of Shaw Enterprises here in town, and at the time was, I believe, the only Fortune 500 company in the state of Louisiana. I could be wrong on that. It was a very successful company and one that was now Jim Bernhard and all of his success has turned into, just billions of dollars. But Richard Gill at the time was one of the top businessmen in the state. And Saban and Gill were, they were thick as thieves. I mean, Saban was able to call Gill and get a jet whenever he wanted one to go on a recruiting visit. He was also able to, look, the statute of limitations has passed on this, and NIL is now legal, but Saban was able to get duffel bags when he needed duffel bags to get big-time players that, LSU was missing on because other programs were playing the way the game was played, and LSU had to get into it. So you had to surround yourself with the right people that could, make this thing work, make the business plan work, fund it. And one thing that Woodward did before he got to LSU was he told whoever went and met him in Dallas, 6 months, 8 months before the job was really offered to him, was he told him, hey, man, you better get me a war chest. So when I got to go get Kim Mulkey, or when I got to replace Ed Ogeron, or when I got to replace Paul Maneri, or when I got to replace a spot, that money is not an issue. I'm not going in front of the legislator. I'm not going in front of the board. I'm not going in front of the donors and begging for money to make LSU better. Get me a war chest so I can go throw money and get these people without any holdup. And that is what he has done better than anyone that has ever had the job. Well, people will say, well, he's got more access to money. True. But you got to imagine whoever's been in that position at the time is dealing with a bloated budget. There's still money to play with, and there's still donors and people that you can go sit in front of in this state and get the money that you want if you can sell it. Right? I mean, like, that's one thing that Woodward does better than anything. I think that's what Woodward is at the end of the day. I mean, I hear more low-level employees, and I say low-level respectively, at LSU, when I just talk to them about their experience, them say more than anything, I never see Scott Woodward. And it's like, well, what do you think, he's not working? Just because he's not in the building sitting at his desk pushing paper doesn't mean that the guy's not out there creating relationships and making it very easy to, when he has to ask and go get $17 million of private money to buy the head football coach out, and then another 100 to go get the other guy, that
yeah, I'm working. You
can have a really awkward conversation, make it feel comfortable. Right? I mean, does anybody believe that Joe Oliva was out there manicuring relationships so he could go have the conversation with the money people at LSU that, hey, I might have to make a move and I'm going to need you to fund it? Those guys were like, get the hell out of this room, you clown. Nobody takes you serious. Nobody's giving you any money. Woodward has got the money in the chest. He's got the money ready to make the move. And that has been the separating factor, in my opinion, of what the LSU athletic department exists now in comparison to where it's ever been. Right? I mean, back in 2000, referencing that golden age and that kickoff to the football, really run, the reason why it started was because Saban became the third highest paid coach in the country at the time, only behind Bobby Bowden and Steve Spurrier, and became only the third coach to make over $1 million. Go look at Saban's first contract at LSU. I believe it was 4 years at $1.2 million a year. And at that time, it was people around here were going ballistic. How can you pay the football coach $1 million? Because he's going to bring you a national championship. The enrollment's going to go up. People are going to start opening businesses. People are going to start spending money. I mean, the economy's going to start rolling. Everything's going to really spur off of it. 20 years later, you're paying the basketball coach $3 million a year. The women's basketball coach. I mean, yes, the money has gone like wildfire in college sports, but you still got to know how to spend it. Right? I mean, there's a lot of athletic directors sitting in their office wishing that they could have their $3 million a year back from their, baseball, football, basketball coach, whoever it may be. I mean, it's still a hell of a gamble to sit across the desk, whether you're playing with, $100 million over 10 years or you're playing with $200,000 over 4, to say you're the right person. Here is every resource you need to make each move, to make and keep up. I mean, the Jay Johnson conversation, I thought one of the things that was one of the skill sets of Woodward that I just learned in listening to one of his lieutenants talk was the replacing of the assistants. And how he went to Woodward, Jay Johnson went to Woodward and looking for advice, and Woodward telling him, keep that circle small, right? Like, don't just go, spread this thing out. Like, know who you want, pinpoint them, and as Jay Johnson noted, he knows that Woodward is going to give him whatever he needs to stay competitive. Whatever they need to be competitive. So, I mean...
And if you don't get it, you could almost negotiate your way to get it. Look at what Kim Mulkey did in year 2, where she basically is strong-arming the basketball department to be like, look, we need a new stadium. I feel like I can say that now because I won a national championship. Jay Johnson getting renovations for Alex Box. That's the way that there's give and take, right? Where... if you don't have success or if you don't show that you're going to progress, then you don't really have to respond to them. But if you win in year 2, then with that becomes more cachet and more of like, hey, it's great here, right? It could be better. And I don't think Scott Woodward has any problem picking up the phone or doing whatever he has to do to, all right, we can get this thing figured out. Like, I want Kim Mulkey to be happy. I want Jay Johnson to want more. That's the way it's supposed to be. He understands how Louisiana works, which is the most impressive part. Where, look, we're not the smartest, we're not the brightest, but if you water and feed athletics, it'll fund the state.
Well, it brings so much. It brings to life the good of the state. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about when they show off a LSU football game on national television. What are the things that they show? They show the tailgating. They show the people, they show the food, they show the music, they show the celebration. And you can hear in the announcers' voices, especially people that are seeing it for the first time or people even like my man Tom Hart, who knows it. Like Tom Hart has been inside of the tailgate. He's been in to the sixth ring of the Pentagon of tailgates. Like he knows what it feels like.
The Coliseum.
He knows what it smells like. He knows what it look. He knows the feels of LSU sports. Even when he talks about it, like coming in from a commercial break. I mean, he's like this. It's just different. It's just it's a whole different place, right? And what hopefully LSU. And like the sports and the success that it's having right now, it can help motivate and spur things that they struggle in, the economy and budgeting and whatever it may be, right? I mean, roads, education, and crime have always been the 3 bullet points, no pun intended, of trying to get those cleaned up, and that seems like that's just that's on the docket every single year. Right? It's like you look around and you're like, well, I mean, why can't these people figure this stuff out? Like successful sports in Louisiana
fixes a lot.
It could go a long way. You know what I mean? Like your roads may be smoother. There may not be as much crime. I mean, there's just it's crazy effects to it, but it has to be a very scary scenario if you do not like LSU. Like, I saw an Arkansas beat reporter tweeting out last night, like, Paul Skenes started twice against Arkansas. LSU never won a game. Like, sweet. They're the national champs. He's the best pitcher ever. He just went one overall.
First overall, but congratulations.
That was the view from Fayetteville again. I mean, like, it's like.
Look at those pop-ups.
But it's like reading that, you're like, golly, man, it must be bad if you hate LSU. You know what I mean? Like, think about like the true Gumpers. Or like the true like Florida, like I'm thinking of like the Florida fans more than anybody who just love to hate LSU. You know, like Florida's the type of program that like celebrates wins that got vacated from the NCAA. Like they're like, well, we on the record now of most wins in the series. Like tap on the head, you know, like okay. But I mean, like,
still remember Chad Jones,
right? I guess it never happens, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, but if you hate LSU, if you despise LSU, if you know, I mean, there's so many programs and fan bases that just can't stand the sight sound of LSU. Is just gotta be curled up alone in a safe place, like breaking pencils in a closet. I mean, it's just because there is no sign of let up, man.
Is that the Ole Miss girl? I just hate LSU.
Yeah, right.
Bah, 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 bah. Like, because you don't think of it from that perspective, really, because we're here, we're all are. I mean, if you're rooting for anything, you're rooting for LSU. Like, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, you still want to see LSU succeed. You don't really put the shoe on the other foot when you see fan bases from different places that are like, they hate, like how, you know, LSU felt about Alabama in like early 2010s, 11s, where you're like,
oh yeah,
I can't
deal
with this
anymore. There was nothing better than like 03 through 07 going to other campuses with the better football team and just watching people hate.
Find
like,
something.
And when you're on the other side of it, like, you can hate all you want, but you're not beating us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
put 40 on your head.
We're about to roll Jamarcus and early Doucette and Dwayne Bowe out on you real quick.
4 running backs.
So, I mean, but
Trenton Holiday's going to run a kickback.
That was just in football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, now you're like showing up to like women's basketball games talking shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different day, man. It's just a different day. I mean, it's a fantastic time to be alive if you are an LSU fan. I mean, there's a world where, I know this is probably big picture, but LSU wins a national championship in football. You have a national championship in college basketball. I really think if they just make the Final Four in football,
just
like,
be a talking point, like, be relevant.
Damn.
God,
like,
again.
I mean, like, damn.
The brand.
I mean, like, there's no let up. You see him in summer. You see him in fall. You see him in the winter. You see him. It's like,
I hate LSU.
I hate LSU.
It was more fun when we were cracking jokes on LSU.
I mean,
yeah, keep it.
But it's
that's
always,
so fun when the rabbit got the gun.
It has always been a sleeping giant in the sense of it cornered the market on a spring and fall sport. Right? Like LSU for so long stood by itself on an island in baseball. I mean, it really kind of took everybody a decade to catch up to Skip. I mean, and look, what he did in the 90s will never be done because he was the one that created it. He was the one that saw, like, there was a huge gaping hole of an opportunity to stamp a flag of the college baseball program that really kind of sets it all off. So to be able to reel off, five in a decade would probably be difficult to do. But and then when Saban got here in football, I mean, I remember him telling people around like Baton Rouge, like people that were in like kind of the like people that were talking about LSU football, was that he just couldn't get over that nobody had been able to really like lock down the state. Like with LSU. Like he was like how the hell is Ed Reed and Reggie Wayne, Cordell Stewart, like how are these guys like I mean like 5 stars? I mean, these aren't diamonds in the rough. I mean, go look up at Ed Reed's highlight video at Destrehan. I mean, it wasn't like you were like, I think the safety's good. You're like, no, I mean, like, who the hell is that guy? I mean, Reggie Wayne at John Ehret, he was like jumping over people. Cordell Stewart, I mean, he just didn't show up to Colorado and start throwing the ball 75 yards. I mean, he was doing that in high school in New Orleans. Marshall Faulk. I mean, how were these guys leave? Like, I mean, for a guy like Saban, who is, at the end of it, he's a good football coach, but he's a master recruiter, right? I mean, he's like looking around like, how the hell don't you recruit these guys? And so, I mean, the first thing he does when he gets off the plane, he goes to see Marquise Hill and Marcus Spears and Michael Clayton. He's like, look, man, y'all cannot leave. So, I mean, like, it's just, it's always been a sleeping giant, right? Like, I mean, it's always been, I mean, for as good as Simone was, and she was dominant, elite, once in a 10-year generational type player, she was still playing very competitive, like, high school women's basketball in AAU circuits around the Southeast. I mean, there were players around here that, like, it wasn't like you had to go, you were recruiting Simone Augustus. You want to be her teammate? So, I mean, it's always been a place, I think, that you could turn it into a championship contender. It's now just, it's all aligned. I mean, you've got everybody in the right spot. You've got everybody pulling in the same direction. It's got to be very just scary. I mean, like, if you're looking around, like, I mean, it's just a...
Well, and Scott saw the blueprint, right? Like, he was here whenever the Nick Saban hires happened, so he knew that you could just run this back, do it that way, where you get people in the right position. LSU was going to succeed, and I mean, to turn it into what he's good at and why he succeeds here. He understands the state, understands the politics of it, and understands if you get people in the right spot, everything's going to matriculate and like kind of make money for itself if you do it the right way. And I mean, look what happened. I mean, Alabama rinsed and repeated Nick Saban from LSU.
Yeah.
And it's never been, the state's never been better on their end. Like, when you go to campus there, it's clean. It's like a nice place to go to school. And before that, would you have said that before Nick Saban got there?
No.
You wouldn't even go travel to Alabama, much less go to a football game. But now it's like, oh, this place is kind of cool. That's what happens whenever, like, success breeds success. And also, if you're Scott Woodward, he's like, look, trust me, this is how we're going to make the state better. It may not be the most, like, fortuitous route, and it may not be the easiest to, like, swallow from the other 49 states when you're wondering, like, oh, what does Louisiana do? Well, it's like, well, athletics. But it's LSU that kind of funds the whole thing when it succeeds.
All right, we'll get back more to it coming up here in a bit. Make sure to hit that like button, that share button, that comment button, if you don't mind. We got big news coming up over here. We are moving studios and excited to announce it. And when everything's lined up and it's time to announce it, we'll let you know where we're going. But you won't really recognize it. But we do have our space right now with our great people, Matthew Shirley and everybody over at Siraj Rotenberg Commercial Real Estate. That our spot on Government Street is coming up for lease if you are interested. And I can tell you that if you are a small business, if you are a legal, a lawyer, if you're anybody that needs access to downtown, or if you need any type of recognition, if you need people to see your sign, we are located within a thoroughfare on Government Street that feeds right into downtown, and it is a major artery of moving traffic throughout the business week. And we're located on 2148 Government Street, which is kind of catty-cornered to the original Harriman's Florist. So if this makes sense for you, and you're looking for a space to lease, and you either have a small business or a company that could use, like I said, it's got great curbside appeal. I can't tell you how many people have recognized our sign, have seen our sign, have seen us located here, have seen the fact that we've put the for lease sign up, and have asked about what's going on and what's next. And like I said, when the time is right, we'll announce it. But it just, notably, the point being is that it's got great recognition. I mean, like, if you, it makes so much sense to me if you're a lawyer. Because of just its access to downtown. I mean, you're 3 minutes away from the courthouse. And it also gives you a great ability to put a sign in the front yard and let people know who you are.
Walking billboard.
If you are interested in it, get in touch with our friend Matthew Shirley. He's the broker on this. He's the realtor over with Siraj, the Siraj Group. So if you want to get in touch with him, I just had his cell phone number pulled up. I'll get it to you here. It is 907-225 area code 907-5214. 907-5214, 225 area code. Matthew Shirley over with Siraj and Rotenberg Real Estate. And it's a great property right here on Government Street. We have the lease tied up until January, but have an opportunity to sublease it. And it would be great for us getting out of it before January as we make the move over to the new spot. So appreciate it. And appreciate everybody watching. Make sure to hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll take a break and be right back here on the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by R&B Builders. Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health, over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier, Kyron Lacey,
Greg Brooks. Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team, make a difference. Bet. Let's get it done.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks.
And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us.
Get it done.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college, for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
Stone. All right, welcome back. Jordy Culotta Show live here on this Monday.
Wait, did y'all write that?
What about a clean cut Stewie?
Yeah,
from the
show it
weekend.
off.
Look at the guy, bro. Somebody's trying to grow up. Somebody's trying to grow up. Look at him, man. So what was it?
Just, like I said, I went through it like for about a week, 2 weeks, and I was just like, man. It's just time for a change. It's time to grow up.
Ladies and gentlemen,
even Kobe cut the fro, bro.
I know.
You know,
MJ has a bald head.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Well, you ain't bald, Coach.
I ain't bald. I ain't
no,
going
you
bald.
Got that hairline's strong.
You got a great hairline.
I appreciate that.
I would show that off.
Yeah. No, that's why I was like, it's time.
Right.
Is this
you
your
don't have
final
that forever,
form?
Stewie.
Yeah, this
You
is
know what
final.
I mean?
This is final form, Coach.
You're not gonna
nothing else.
Nothing crazy.
This is final form, Stewie.
You think that?
Okay.
You think that? You get bored. I'm telling you. I know you, Stuart.
I've come to some realizations that this is my final form. Like, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to do.
No lines?
No lines. Like, I mean, lines is more like high school thing. Like, you do that when you're in high school.
I know, but I'm telling you, whenever you start off with it, now you have a base set, your generic one with the hair.
Yeah,
like, what do you do in NBA 2K? Like, what do you do in You're like, I'm gonna change it up a little
clean
bit.
Cut.
Yeah, bro.
I'm telling you, you get bored. I mean, I used to be clean cut. Look at my ID. People, I still get. They don't believe it's me. Whenever I give my ID it is kind of. I don't know which way it's going.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if oh, you used to look good, now you look like ass, but I still get ID'd. But then I show my ID, they ask me birthday, and then they're like, "What's your driver's license number?" I was like, "Who the fuck knows that?"
I know it.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm great with numbers because I do jerseys.
Me too.
Yeah, but
I've never had to remember.
And I
that,
break it
though.
down in 2 numbers. I mean, can stuff get shady if you put your license number out?
Yeah.
You can. So
Yeah,
I don't
block
want
it
to rattle
out.
it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll get you.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happens.
Right.
Because
you could just live in the state of Louisiana. They just let everybody hack it.
I got that email that they hacked my stuff, and I was like, I don't know.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know. It's easier to just ignore.
Right.
Like one of those things.
Somebody's just me right now. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess. I don't know what's going on, but I got you were on the list of people that had their social security and address and everything leaked. And I was like, is this a leak too? Is this real?
Are you telling me that I'm leaked and you're leaking it
exactly.
to me?
So I just ignored it. Just gonna because if you keep going down that path, maybe that's the leak. That's me getting exposed.
See, now I get the second look on the ID for sure. I have hair on all of my IDs.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but my license expires this year, so new picture coming.
Okay.
You're gonna go to the DMV?
Yeah, I mean I have to. Oh, I'll probably go to DMV Express.
Yes.
That's the way to
Before
go.
we need to do it before it gets.
Well, you can get like
expiration date.
Yeah, you can get the sticker if you like call it in, so you don't go to the DMV, dude.
Oh no, I'm not going to the DMV. I'm going to DMV Express.
Even the Express,
absolutely.
You got to get there.
I kind of don't mind the Express.
Nah, it's
all
all
feels
about,
like a cheat code,
right? You're just getting there a little early.
I mean, for somebody who waited at the DMV for like hours. I mean, I remember the day where it was like energy, where it was like it gave you like a 9 to 5 window.
Yeah.
You know, it was like you just show up and good luck.
But you had to do that.
Yeah,
like you're there.
I was going to leave and go get lunch. Is that cool? Well, if we call your number, you're screwed. You're like, ugh.
You get to start over.
Pull a number. That number system is.
I mean, like trying to like work somebody dropping off Chick-fil-A at the DMV for you, getting nervous to run to the curb so nobody calls your number.
You can't even go to the bathroom.
Oh, it was just such a
headache.
Baton Rouge run place, man.
I mean, that's the DMV. It's like that everywhere. Like even Alexandria is just like the tides of change move slowly around here. It's like I feel like I'll work here
and
like,
unapologetically.
Oh yeah, they
like just
you
like,
know you're in the
they could be like in the middle of like typing you up and like ding, that's lunch. Sorry, I'll be back at 45. Like whoa,
I was trying to take the driving test.
I've been here for 80 years.
Whoa.
I think I'm tenured here.
What's 3 minutes? I can't get a 42-minute lunch break. What do you want me to do? Sorry.
I mean,
I'll be back in an hour.
It's state rules.
Yeah, see, Franklin doesn't have a DMV, so you either go to Morgan City or you go to New Iberia. I went to the New Iberia one.
That sounds awful.
Sat in there for the driving test. I probably sat in there for like 2 hours, just waiting.
Wait, yeah, didn't even drive yet. I'm just trying to get a computer.
Like I'm nervous already. Like
that is a nerve-wracking
This is
time.
making it worse.
God, I think
I did fail the first time.
Me too. I failed the computer part.
The written part.
Yeah.
I think it was the nerves.
Yeah, it was like, shit, I don't know. Right.
Yeah, just put me on the road.
Behind the wheel.
Figure it out.
Show you how to do this thing.
Sorry,
So
I get
true.
the yield signs.
Yeah.
You can't, because you can't visualize it. That was my thing. Is like I don't know what you're asking me.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you put me on there and like if we did like a
car
comedians
driving
in cars getting coffee or something, like ask me questions while I was driving, like yeah, I know that. You know, like I know the rules. But if you put me in front, like this isn't how we're supposed to test this
Sitting
thing.
in front of a computer.
Yeah.
My buddy Blake Unglesby, rest in peace, took a left on red at his driving test because thought you could turn a left on red.
I did the same thing.
Took a left. I mean, like he's like getting out into the. She's like, whoa! What are you doing? What are you doing? He's like, well, can't you take a left on red? You can take a right on red. And she's like, no. I mean, dude, it's so funny telling the story.
Going
like,
into inclement traffic.
And there's a 48-hour window. You can't come back tomorrow.
Well, I'm driving anyway. But my buddy's mom did the driving test, and I did like the same thing. I hit a U-turn when I was like, "You definitely can't hit a U-turn here." I was like, "What's the big deal?" And she's like, "If I didn't know you, like, this is an automatic
story of your life.
This is an automatic
story of your life.
Absolutely.
You're supposed to be in trouble."
Yes, it's not the grades you make; it's the hands you shake.
Speaking of trouble, Pat Fitzgerald, like I can't believe that people in 2023 are still getting in trouble for hazing. I don't know if you saw the story on over the weekend. Northwestern football player came forward with allegations of widespread hazing within the program, and has brought to life some stuff that just, I mean, like is ridiculous. Like I can't believe in 2023 people are still. I told you I'm reading Bill Walsh's book. Mm-hmm. And it's a fantastic book. I don't know why I can never remember the title. The score will figure itself out, I think. I don't know why I keep forgetting the name of the title of the book. But he talks about it, and it's like this is 1984. The Score takes care of itself by Bill Walsh. Dove into it a ton this weekend, man. It was just it's a great read. I'm listening to it. Sorry, there it is right there. I actually hit play.
Oh, little plug. Wait, so do you count?
So Bill Walsh talks about one of the things that he instituted as a early day 49er head coach. Like he goes back to when he took the job in, I believe, 78, and the 49ers were hamstrung because they had dealt away all of their draft picks for O.J. Simpson at the end of his career. OJ was a local kid from San Francisco, and the ownership was trying to make a big ticket push and make a big splash within local business. They wanted to see a spike. Didn't work out. Bill Walsh got there. They had him hamstrung. And he said, the place was it was mom and pop. I mean, it was a poorly run organization. And he talks about really kind of turning the San Francisco 49ers into the San Francisco 49ers. And one of the first things he says that he does away with is hazing. He's like, I've never seen something that can set an organization more back than hazing. He said one of the things that we wanted to institute when becoming a San Francisco 49er is that when you showed up, you were a human being. It treated you like a human being. Like, did the rookies have to carry a veteran's helmet back to the locker room? Maybe. But, nobody was sitting around getting paddled and doing this weird stuff that hazing brings to life. I was never in a fraternity. I never was. Full disclosure. I hung out with a lot of frat dudes, but never was in a fraternity. And would hear them talking about the pledging process and be like, look, I know it's easier to throw stones on this side of the glass, but that's weird. You know what I mean? Like, that is super strange. Wherever that's originating from, that is some dark, deep.
What got lost in translation?
That's some weird
this is
stuff.
Not something that was supposed to be
That's
happening.
Some weird stuff. That's weird.
Shout out Kappa Sig, they got it right.
Still to be doing that in 2023, after all of what has come out of, I've never heard one good thing come out of a hazing story. Ever. The scale can be tipped of, alcohol, poison, and death to carrying a football helmet off the field. You know what I mean? There's never ever been a positive story for hazing. So for Pat Fitzgerald and Northwestern to be caught up in hazing in 2023, first off, you should be terminated for stupidity. How dumb are you? When all of this stuff has come out over the last decade, the coach that didn't walk into his or her program and say, if you get caught hazing, you're done. It's over for you. A zero tolerance policy on hazing. And I know you can't monitor the locker room 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the stuff that's being alleged, I guess, is it alleging?
No, there's a whistleblower. That's how all of this stuff came out. There's a former player or a current player that said, this is what's going on at Northwestern. And he detailed all of the, whether it be runs giving, runs missed, all of these things that they had to do that's hazing, and it all came out. And for Pat Fitzgerald to basically claim ignorance to this, there's no way you didn't know.
Right.
So,
it
saves his job.
First off, like we said, coaches by nature are the most obsessive, psychotic, overbearing people that you will ever meet. Sure, there's one or two out there that that are laid back and cool. But for the most part, the majority, the higher percentage, 98% of them are psychotic, obsessive. People like Rick Pitino and Pat Fitzgerald who claim ignorance of knowing stuff like having a prostitution ring being run out of a dorm room or some of the stuff that Northwestern kids are alleging. They know. They've heard it. An assistant coach has found out about it. Some staffer knows about it. Somebody has leaked it up the chain to allow Pat Fitzgerald to know, yo, bro, you got some stuff that's bubbling over, man. Watch out, heads up. And for Pat Fitzgerald not to bring them all into the locker room, close the door, and be like, yo, if I hear one more hazing story, whoever it comes from is done. Done. Or you could just let it go on and lose your job. Like a moron in 2023. This is the low-hanging fruit that you cut out of the program day one. This is the stupid stuff that can cost you your job in July.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Slow news month.
While everybody's getting caught up and ready to go for the season. You've been paddling and doing weird stuff off campus, and people are like, yo, Pat, what's the deal with your program, man? I had no idea. How? How did you not have any idea? I mean, it just, like, dumb. Like, dumb. You know? And I mean, like, look, I might get pumped for something dumb tomorrow. You know, I mean, I know but I mean, like, hazing in a D1 college football program? I mean, that's how you bust your reputation. I mean, Pat Fitzgerald felt like a name at Northwestern that was untouchable. Guy played there. I mean, he's made the football program, for all intents and purposes, kind of relevant. I mean, like, the only reason why I know about Northwestern football is because of Pat Fitzgerald. Right? I mean, like, do you know anything about Northwestern football other than the former player who, you know, still looks like a linebacker, coaches the program? I mean, like, man.
Did they try to form a union in that Northwestern?
They did try to form a union.
That's all I know about Northwestern. Like, I was really scraping the barrel there to try to find something. I know Pat Fitzgerald, like you said. Like, I know that he's bigger than the program is almost. Like, he's a figurehead. Yeah. When you think of, like, I think of their coach before, I can't name a Northwestern player, much less understand what the program's done.
They had a decent running back last year, but I can't think of his name.
Exactly. That's just what I mean, they've had some quarterbacks that were okay. Yeah. Like, but when you, to your point, like, you think of Northwestern, I know who Pat Fitzgerald is. And for it to get to this point where, look, I was in a fraternity, like, there was some things that happened, whatever, but it wasn't this. Like, this is bizarre. Like you said, it's kind of like they let it get to a point where, like, what are we doing?
Right.
What's the point of this? Because it got lost in the sauce somewhere of the second string quarterback taking snaps from my center we're both naked.
Yeah.
Like,
that's weird.
Like, I don't even want to be around for that. Like, I'm out. I'm good.
Here's the story. The former player who spoke to ESPN on the condition of anonymity, which, you know, like, I mean, come on, man. You going to make the allegation, you know what I mean?
Put your name on it.
Put your trust out there.
Said that he told Michael Schill, who was with the university president, about the hazing that he witnessed and experienced at Northwestern, much of which he said was sexualized. Schill sent a letter out on Saturday to the Northwestern community that he had to reassess a 2-week suspension that he had given Fitzgerald Friday. The former player said that Fitzgerald absolutely knew about the hazing in the program. He failed by not intervening, and he should have made it stop. And he truly did not, and if he truly did not know, he should not be the head coach. Either way, he should not be the head coach because he is not monitoring and protecting the safety and well-being of the student athletes. Fitzgerald, who has been the coach since 2006. Wow. Northwestern players on Saturday released a statement supporting their head coach, saying that the former player had exaggerated and twisted. The former player said that Sunday that Schill, who is the university president, was extremely receptive to the accounts of hazing with the program and offered him resources to deal with the trauma. A current player says, the truth is none of that stuff happened in our locker room. I don't know.
That's not really a denial.
It's just a weird
It just
story.
didn't happen in the locker room doesn't mean it didn't happen. Right? Like, you could have gone to somebody's house, like, that's definitely what they did, went off campus, and, like, one of the players' houses, but, like, that's the ultimate terrible denial. Didn't happen in the locker room. Like,
what's going on in the locker room?
Yeah.
What's going on at my house?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
It's cool then. Like, what are you talking about? Of course Pat Fitzgerald knew.
Right.
He's the head coach of the
He
program.
he doesn't come in the locker room. The locker room belongs to us. This is what a player said. Like,
you tell that to Pat Fitzgerald.
Well, the player said that Pat Fitzgerald told him that.
Yeah, he's got to get away from it. I mean, between him and Bob Huggins, I don't know, he's having a tougher day.
Bobby.
Huggy Bear.
Bobby. What are you doing, man?
I didn't quit. My wife did.
Wife told me to quit.
I mean, this story is weird.
It's gotten off the. I mean, we're in that part of sports where it's awesome.
It's strange, man. If you're in the newswire in mid-July, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You do not want to be. I mean, like, you want to
run,
get the hell out of Dodge, out of the newswire in July. Weeks after, and this is coming from Myron Metcalf, who is an ESPN staff writer, writes at ESPN.com, that weeks after Bob Huggins announced his resignation following a DUI arrest, an attorney for the former West Virginia men's basketball coach claims he never formally resigned last month and said Huggins will sue the university if he's not reinstated. In a response, the university, which announced the hiring of longtime assistant Josh Eilert to an interim last month, said it will not reinstate Huggins and will defend itself against any spurious allegations. It's a hell of a legal term.
Steve Spurious?
Last month, Huggins was arrested again on DUI. The arrest came nearly 6 weeks after Huggins was on the radio using an anti-gay slur that prompted a 3-game suspension and $1 million reduction in his salary. According to documents released by the university on Saturday, Huggins' legal team sent a letter to Gordon G., who is the West Virginia's president, on Friday, stating that Huggins never officially resigned. The letter also said that Huggins entered rehab after his arrest last month and intends to return to his post as head coach when he completes the program.
He was almost out the woods.
Like, he's going to show up?
I'm coming back.
He's just going to show up?
Don't put it past him.
Josh, get out of my desk. What are you doing?
You just changed the office up or something? You take my
still wear my sweats. I got the 2022 version, but
did you take my pictures now?
Huggy Bear.
David Campbell, who is an attorney for Huggins, said Huggins' resignation correspondent with the school did not come from him, but it came from his wife, June. Campbell claims Huggins never gave the Mountaineers a formal resignation. Based on press statements, it appears that West Virginia is taking the position that Coach Huggins voluntarily resigned and terminated his employment back in April. However, although the press statements report to have resignation communications directly from Coach Huggins to you and or the athletic director, Coach Huggins has never communicated his resignation to the AD or anyone at West Virginia. To the contrary, we understand the resignation incredibly based on a text message from Huggins' wife.
Timestamp on that text.
3 a.m.
Hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that. You could finish second, third, fourth, hell, fifth. Bob, like,
what a
did
mess.
I quit last night? Like, Bobby.
Oh, little do you know.
That bottom of the bottle is dark.
I mean, Huggy's going to show up.
Sweating.
And I mean, be like, all right, boys. Line up.
This is essentially what Ed Orgeron wanted to do.
Nobody's gonna move. It's gonna be one of those times. It's gonna be one of the movie, like
Varsity Blues.
Like, coach.
Come on, boys. Here we go.
Yeah, that's right.
Upper locker room.
That's
like,
right.
Mm-mm.
That's right. No, we're right.
One of the darkest
you're
sports
done
scenes
here.
ever.
It is dark.
Like I've never not had the room before.
John Voight.
Mm-hmm. Here we go. Come on, boys.
What's his name, Coach?
Oh God.
What's his name on Varsity Blues?
He's so mean. I hated him.
He is a perfect.
He's such a good 90s football
he is
coach.
A great 90s high school coach.
TwoAdays.com. Like, what do you think we're doing here? Hazing.
Beating him over the head with a whistle.
Clipboard.
Yeah, right. You're damn right we haze here.
Coach Kilmer.
Coach Kilmer. Is it Bud?
Coach Kilmer. Varsity Blues, man. What a great show.
I don't want your life.
Wes Kynan.
Reading a book on the sidelines. Andrew Hatchinett.
Bud Kilmer.
Bud Kilmer. Yeah, Bud.
Had a statue. He had a statue at the high school.
Here we go. Now.
Yeah. Go, boys.
There we go.
Boys.
2 more quarters. Rest of your life.
Oh, Bud Kilmer. That's right. 2 more quarters. Rest of your life.
Come on now. Here we go. Come on. Like, nobody's behind you,
Bud,
dude.
it's over, bro.
I give it a 10. 10.
Golly, dude. What a movie.
What a movie. See the table.
Hour 2 coming back with you. We'll be with you. Katie's Restaurant. Remember, Katie's located down on Eberville Street. Katie'sInMidCity.com. Katie'sInMidCity.com. You can find them down there. Great menu items. Great to choose from. New Orleans and some St. Louis style pizza, get in touch with Katie's. Katie'sInMidCity.com. Katie'sInMidCity.com. We'll be back. More Jordy Culotta Show, built by RMB Builders. Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check them out online at redsticksports.biz.
We're all from different places and backgrounds. We've each experienced our own versions of life, but in the end, we're all on the same team. I'm part of that team, along with these players in purple and gold.
Kayshawn Buddha, Malik Neighbors, Miles Frazier,
Kyron Lacey,
Greg Brooks. Whether on the field or in the courtroom, your team matters.
So join our team.
Make a difference.
Bet. Let's get it done.
The Jordy Culotta Show is brought to you by A-Bears Lawn Maintenance. Commercial or residential, A-Bears Lawn Maintenance is ready to work. A-Bears can tackle all your homeowners association requirements. Call Blake at 225-485-8022. A-Bears Lawn Maintenance.
In a wreck, Gordon McKernan Injury Attorneys is ready to go to work for you. Come meet your team.
I'm your intake specialist. I coordinate your case and connect you with your attorney and paralegal.
That's us, your legal team.
Thanks.
And we'll fight to get you every dollar you deserve.
I'm your settlements and disbursement manager, and I'm here to get you paid on time.
I'm attorney Gordon McKernan. Put our team to work today. Just call us. Get it done.
Are you looking for sound financial advice? Then get in touch with Daniel Newman of Edward Jones. You can call him today at 225-261-8262 or email him daniel.newman@edwardjones.com. If you're planning for retirement, saving for college for children or grandchildren, or just looking for sound investment opportunities, get in touch with Daniel today, 225-261-8262, located on Magnolia Square Drive in Central. Daniel Newman of Edward Jones.
Hey Tiger fans, when you're traveling through Natchez, Mississippi, make sure to visit Tom and Wright Granning at Go-Mart and On The Go Deli, where you can fill up your tank and your belly. Go-Mart has clean restrooms, community coffee, an awesome beer cave, and a great selection of anything you may need on your trip. Located at 4 Sergeant Prentice Drive as you're entering Natchez on the left. Also, stop by Wardo's Po' Boys at 309 North Broadway on the beautiful Natchez Bluff, where the Po' Boys are so good you'll swear you're in Cajun country.
Welcome back. Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by RMB Builders. Our friends over at Southern Regional Medical Center. Don't forget Jason Ramazan and Mr. Fun's Travel taking off to Orlando. I think somebody was asking if we were heading to Orlando. We are not going to Orlando for the opening game. Yeah, I think there are a small amount of people. The show is not going to be there. But it will be man, that's going to be a great game. Looking forward to that one, LSU, Florida State. And we've talked about how that is a huge one as far as the kickoff to the season goes. And it's also one that will bring the other team a lot of notoriety. In fact, this weekend I was eating dinner at a local spot. I was at Portobello's over there in the Jefferson Shopping Center, and I was eating dinner over there on Friday. And somebody walked up to me and said that they had they heard my take on the LSU Florida State game, and that a team could potentially be number one in the country. And I still don't know whether or not he agreed or disagreed with me, because we got into a small conversation about it. And he, at first, was saying that there's no way that that's going to happen. And by the end of our conversation, he was saying that it makes sense. I mean, that maybe so. I mean, like it kind of makes sense. And I was like, all right. Well, so it sounds like that's a pretty good segment. It kind of gets you thinking. It gets you talking. Gets you you can kind of see both sides of it, right? And look, I do believe that. I believe that. Look, not to say that it's going to be the defining moment and that the team is going to be the number one team in the country. What you're doing is just putting yourself into a discussion of teams that are relevant for the rest of the year if you continue to take care of your business, right? And I think more over to the model now of a 4-team playoff. I think next season you don't have to worry about this as much when it expands to 12. Right? I mean, one thing that LSU is doing, in my opinion, is setting themselves up as a top 10 team every year in the way that they recruit, in the way that they staff, in the way that they schedule. I mean, I think that they're going to be a top 10 team, within the discussion every year. So if the playoff format is at 12, you're in a great spot, right? At 4, you got to fight for your place. You got to fight for your spot at the table. And LSU feels like they're deserving of a spot at the table this year, right? They feel like they've got what it takes. They've got a quarterback. They've got an experienced offensive line. They've got big-time playmakers. They got a defense that features playmaking, game-changing type of players in Perkins and Smith, and you got some newcomers that could pop onto the scene and really vault you into a discussion that is championship contending worthy. And That's really more of the case. I think the number one team in the country is good for the segment. It's good for us to talk about. No, they won't. Well, maybe they won't be. But they'll be within the top 2 or 3 teams that are being discussed and has their logo flashing in your face for the rest of the year. Right? And it also is in the brain of that committee as they sit there and they discuss, whatever they do back there. But one team that is going to stay relevant from the opening weekend is the team that wins this game. And that is as good as being number 1 in the country. As long as you're in the discussion. And can you make it out of it if you do? If you lose? Absolutely. There's data and there is examples that you can point to that make perfect sense. LSU last season. I mean, you don't have to look too far. But think about late in the year where you fall to Texas A&M and you fall to Georgia. If you've got one more of those wins, right? Where if you've got another win somewhere where you had to squeeze that out. I mean, it's tough to get to 10 games, to 10 wins, right? When you miss one by a true freshman missing a block on a PAT and having it knocked out of there for a game-tying field goal to force overtime, that's one that'll keep you up. I mean, that'll haunt you.
Do you think that's why? I mean, you obviously had the interview with Brian Kelly, but do you think that was somewhere in the recesses of his brain for the Alabama 2-point conversion? Like, we're not doing this again.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like, you could say analytics all you want, but it's like, we're not going there.
Not only that example, I think by that time of the season, you had been burned so much by special teams, you were looking for opportunities to take it out of their hand. I mean, it was just, I don't think it came down to an individual. I think it came down to the units. I think it came down to just, look, you until they get that entire operation fixed, you just win with what you know is solid. Right?
Put my offense back on the field.
Absolutely. I mean, at that point, Jaden Daniels was the best player on the team, right? I mean, there was a 5 or 6 game stretch in the middle of the year. I thought that Daniels really stepped up and became QB1 for LSU, but moreover became probably, outside of Harold Perkins, the best offensive player on the team. I mean, I think he was carrying that offense. Yeah,
whenever you needed to play, it was do it arms or legs. I don't care.
He read it right. He made the right decision. He was a quarterback. I wanted to be speculative on Jaden Daniels going in. I did not know if it would translate to the league. I just thought really and truly when it came down to it, I thought he was too small. I thought his physique was not going to be able to hold up, and that's a testament to him because he didn't end up breaking down until the end of the year. And I say the end of the year, I'm talking like the last regular season game against A&M, and it was really kind of a freak play. I mean, he kind of took a weird step, and his ankle kind of popped on him. I mean, he lasted a lot longer than I gave him credit for going into the season. I thought running in between the hash marks in the SEC is a death wish. I mean, I've seen 4- and 5-star running backs getting popped in the middle of the field on SEC football fields out there, much less the 175-pound quarterback. But he was able to protect his body, and he was able to start making decisions, making throws, making timely decisions of getting rid of the ball and getting it to the playmakers, and really understood that, hey, you don't have to be a superstar. You don't have to be a hero. You got people all around you that can change the game. But you're athletic enough that, I mean, that zone read play for LSU is as indefensible of a play in college football that exists with him. I mean, his first ability to run that, he runs it perfectly, where he reads that thing down the line and it makes that read position make a move. I mean, that guy is really kind of taught, don't commit. You know what I mean? Wait till the last second to read it. And Jaden Daniels does an incredible job of making the defender commit. And then once he does, his decision-making is pristine.
He's so fast, too.
And he's so fast. I mean, the first play of overtime in Alabama, that play, that play, I mean, the blocking on it obviously was incredible. I mean, that was a
masterclass.
It's like a coaching. If you're at a coaching clinic,
it's a clinic. Yeah.
If you're at a coaching clinic, it's a leadoff type play. I mean, if you're Joe Sloan, if you're Mike Denbrock, if you're Brian Kelly, if you're Frank Wilson, if you're Cortez Hankton, if you're any of these guys associated, Brad Davis with the offense that make decisions, everybody did their job. Every single person not only did their job, like they mastered their job.
Also a good recruiting point, too. Like, something you could bring up to a recruit. Like, look at this. You want to win? That's what you got to do.
This is effort. I mean,
And
Brian Thomas is still blocking Eli Ricks. Like, he's putting him
blocked him out the draft.
Yeah, I mean,
5-star wide receiver.
Put him on the hood.
I mean,
and then you get the Josh Williams effort where it's just one more little, I'm
lay it
giving you
all out.
110%, coach. You can't tell me otherwise. And that's the way it looks. It's the perfect play for LSU in that situation. And the fact that he's been able to kind of incorporate the Mason Taylor, like, oh, and I can drop it off too. Like, it's the read option, boom, first read. Then it's like it's an RPO where I can also throw it a little bit. And Mason Taylor being able to get into that role so fast, so young, whenever, like you were saying, look at him and even the first game before, take the extra point out of it. Look at what he did in the first game against Florida State to get out of bounds.
That's right.
Like, he's always been, that's the son of an NFL player.
No, he's heady. I mean, he's a player. I mean, he's somebody that I think last year was a little underappreciated. Mm-hmm. And even with everybody coming back this season and some new additions, even at his spot, I mean, Kamori and Pimpton is going to be one of these gadgets, one of these trinkets, one of these ornaments that you look at and you just are going to be like, my God, get him out there, like get the ball in his hands. He's almost got a Harold Perkins offensive, kind of feel to him of just.
They love him.
They love him, and also he's going to be a freshman tight end in an offense that features playmakers everywhere. So you're not going to be able to specialize defense against him, right? I mean, first off, people are going to be shocked to see him out there early, and once the film gets out, then people are going to start to have to, try and transition to it. But once you move to him, now you're kind of playing into LSU's hand, right? I mean, you think about having Pimpton and Thomas on the field within the 20-yard line in the red zone. You've got 2 6'5" offensive players that got 40-inch verticals. Don't overthink it. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be 4 defensive backs on the other side of the field. I don't care if you're playing Alabama. Maybe Georgia would be able to match up with LSU in a 5-wide situation. But there are only maybe Bama, maybe. I wouldn't even say Bama, really, could match up with LSU. I mean, you're talking 5 wide where you're going Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas, you're going Aaron Anderson, you're going
Chris Hilton.
You're going. What about who had a great spring? My guy from
Kyron
Lacey, who had an incredible spring, who looks like he's ready to bust out. And we hadn't even talked about Mason Taylor or Kamori and Pimpton yet.
Or Shelton Sampson.
Or maybe even Landon Ibieta, who looked really good in the spring game.
Jaylen Brown.
I don't know.
Jaylen Brown. I mean,
Kyle Parker. I like the names just.
Stacked.
I just, LSU's going to be a matchup issue inside the 20. I mean, going to be a matchup problem all over the field, but specifically inside the red area, LSU is going to be a huge problem. I mean, there's too much. It's just too much. I mean, you get down to your 3rd, 4th, 5th defender, and that guy's guarding Pimpton. I mean, that's 6. Just throw it up. I mean, really, it becomes backyard football.
Look at the arms and it's all arms and legs.
And now he's in a weight program.
Go gadget. But
so don't ask who 88 is.
You just saw. But if you're LSU,
great number too.
Isn't that the best? Like, that's what LSU was. The offense is so suited to be able to get to the red zone. It wasn't. I don't want to say it's not explosive, but it's not 80 yards and a touchdown. It was methodical. Jane Daniels making the right decision at the right time.
Zone
and now you blink and you're inside the 40, and it's 3rd and 4, 3rd and 6, and it's like, okay, keep it moving. And then when you get inside the red area or inside the 30, even, you're like, okay, here comes Pimpton, here comes
throw it up,
Shelton Sampson. Like, these guys are all 6'5", 6'6", and Pimpton is in a great spot because he doesn't have to do what Mason Taylor did last year.
Exactly.
Where grow up now. Like, you're starting day one. And
No, I mean, he's Harold Perkins.
He's a specialist.
He's Harold Perkins. He's the freak in camp that everybody wants to play. By the third game of the year, you have to have a package for him. By the fifth game of the year, he's one of the most unguardable guys in the league. And, by the end of the year, everybody knows about him but can't stop him because it comes down to physics. It comes down to there's not going to be 4 or 5 defenders on any team. Really, maybe Georgia, maybe. But that would be it. That can really match up one-on-one. Because somebody's got to guard the quarterback. I mean, somebody's got to take account for Daniels. Because if you don't, he's gone. LSU's going to be fun to watch, man.
I don't want to throw out too many comparisons, but he kind of reminds me of, Kyle Pitts. I know Kyle Pitts was a top 10 draft pick.
I know.
All of that, but his physique
and
the
how
film
long
looks like Kyle Pitts.
He does.
It's almost a spitting image of Kyle Pitts.
And Kyle Pitts wasn't Kyle Pitts till he was Kyle Pitts.
Exactly.
Whenever you saw against LSU, that's when you kind of got your first indoctrination of who is that? Because he was eating LSU alive.
Killing them.
And you're like, oh, okay. Then
he killed everybody.
Yeah, it kept happening. That put him on the map. And you're going to have probably a Pimpton-type game when it's the SEC and it's on TV and it's
absolutely.
Oh, he's going to get featured.
Oh, he's going to make a huge play. Jack Besh, touchdown against Bama. Mason Taylor, touchdown against Bama. I mean, one of these plays where you're just like, whoa, big play, freshman. Heads up.
The freshman.
Yeah, I mean, it's just he's going to be tough to keep off the field.
And it'll be interesting to see what the offense looks like. 'Cause I think it'll have a little maturation process from what you saw last year, but it's also you got all these toys in the chest, and Denbrock, it's kind of on you. Mm-hmm. You can't do the same thing you did last year. It was kind of, I don't want to say treading water, but there was times when it was Jay Daniels figured out. They weren't on the same page the entire time. Now it feels like if it is as good as it could be, LSU is going to. There's a reason that Jay Daniels is second in the Heisman odds, out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, look at all the weapons around him. Look at the offense. Look at what the numbers he put up last year. You threw for over 3,000 yards, almost ran for 1,000 yards. And that was a year where people didn't even think he was good enough to be your starter. So if he turns it on and is better, it could be silly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the SEC.
It's going to be fun for sure, man. Really, LSU's going to be fun to watch this season offensively. And, from a defensive standpoint, obviously you get one of your top players back in Mason Taylor, in Mason Smith, who is, motivated, hungry, looking to he's looking to wreak havoc this year. So it's going to be fun. We'll talk more about that LSU Florida State game. Obviously, the huge story today is LSU baseball. Paul Skenes going number 1 overall to the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Washington Nationals followed up at number 2 and took his teammate Dylan Cruz, was selected as the number 2 overall selection in the draft. So for Cruz, Golden Spikes Award winner, a national title, drafted within the top 2. I would say my man had a successful college baseball career. For Paul Skenes, obviously 1 year at LSU sets both the SEC and the LSU single-season strike record, fastly becomes the ace of LSU staff, and turns in just to a dominant, one of the most dominant pitchers, going 12-2 this season with a 1.69 ERA and a Division I leading 209 strikeouts. The 6'6" righty became the number 1 player in the draft. The junior, Ken Griffey Jr., announced his draft yesterday, which was cool. That'll always be a cool moment for Paul Skenes to have one of the greatest of all time announced his. I expect we'll probably see Skenes here pretty soon with Pittsburgh. I'm just judging by the way, like Kyle Peterson and that crew were talking during the World Series. Every time he took the ball, they were saying expect to see him soon in the big leagues, and not as a bullpen closing type guy, as a starter. Skenes will be on the Pirate staff. Should be on the Pirate staff like before the end of the year. I mean,
it's happened before, especially if they continue to be somewhat successful, where you're like, all right. I mean, you've seen people that whenever the draft was like later in the year, and you saw people go straight from Omaha into basically a bullpen scenario where they were the 3rd overall pick, and now you're playing for the Colorado Rockies, and it's game time. Like, we need you now.
Right.
And it's like, okay, call me up. Like, I'm ready to go. And for Skenes, if it's not out the bullpen, which is obviously you didn't see it this year, but that's obviously where he got to start, right? Like, because he was catching for Air Force and then would take the gear off and go close the game out. So he can do that. But also, if you didn't know Paul Skenes, like if you just put a jersey on somebody and trotted him out there, you wouldn't bat an eye. He looks like a major leaguer.
Oh my God!
Like
he looks like an NFL defensive end.
But you would be like, all right, he's good enough to play here. You know, it doesn't. There's no really learning curve for him.
I mean, he's LeBron size. I mean, really.
He might be bigger than LeBron. Like they might be the same size.
Coach LeBron.
Coach LeBron.
Did you see him out there?
So funny.
Le Coach.
Le Coach. Le clipboard.
Le timeout. Le
argue.
Le argue.
Dude, but I was
so
watching.
What's the deal? He just shows up and coaches the team one game? Like
it's his team.
I think it is his team. So
right. Who's the coach?
It's him and Rajon Rondo.
Yeah.
For the summer, like their little summer league.
Well, I saw Bronny was assisting him on Saturday.
Ronnie's assistant coach too now.
What a wild world to live in. If you're like just the ether of LeBron, it's like I'm coaching. It's like what?
LeBron's showing up, coach. You're done.
Go sit in the stands.
He needs your play. He needs your clipboard.
He needs the roster.
Yeah, right. He doesn't know anybody besides his son, Bryce.
The cameras are here, so LeBron's going to coach.
I mean, like
he's probably good at it.
That I'm sure he is good at it.
Yeah,
I'm sure he is good at it. But he definitely knows that the camera is on. I mean, he's out in the middle of the floor. If I'm the other coach, I'm like,
oh my God,
who is this guy? LeBron James?
Oh, such a sideshow. When he's arguing with that referee is smiling ear to ear,
he's like, dude, what you want me to do?
Can't even talking to you.
I mean, we're on national television right now.
If you think it's a foul, Michael, I'm sorry. You called a foul. I believe you.
Everybody, hope you had a good weekend. Have a great day. Hit that like button, share button, comment button. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for the Jordy Culotta Show, as always, built by RMB Builders.
Big haircut.
Big haircut.